Recording. Yo, what's going on, guys? I know it's peaking. Audio's peaking over here. Back at it again, figuring out the software. So first thing we're looking at is need help crushing my gym rival. Sounds great. First thing first, my gym rival is a really awesome guy. Let me pause for a second. All right, I'm back. Gym rival is a really awesome guy, and I like him a lot. He is just as much of a BJJ nerd as I am, and we have great technical discussions and a good camaraderie. However, he is always just one step ahead of me. It feels like I'm always breathing down his neck. That's great, but I rarely can get the better of him. He is also a frequent pursuer of this peruser of this subreddit. And he may recognize me from this post. If you're seeing this, bro, I'm coming for you. So he's about 220 pounds heavier. Well, there you go. That's the discussion right there. You figured it out. A few inches shorter. So he's a manlet. Brown belt. I guess this guy's a purple belt, and plays a very get on top and stay on top type of game. I play a very flowy, never stop moving, impossible to hold down, legs coming from everywhere type of game. The only time I can get anything really going on him is when I get him in my guard. Okay, get to your guard more often. But we always start from standing, and he is a better wrestler, so I regularly find myself in his side control. Inside control? Yo, pull guard, bro. What are you doing? You know, people on Reddit don't pull guard. They just, I don't know what they do. Anytime I try, the typical side control escapes or even some more unconventional escapes, he dives over into front headlocks and never lets up the pressure. He's a brown belt. That's what he's supposed to do. Side control, I start escaping. He dives over me and away from my legs with a front headlock. I fight out of the front headlock. He gains side control. It goes on. It feels like once he gets past my guard, it's the beginning of the end. Yeah, you develop your guard better. Guard retention. Go check out John Thomas. He's got the best guard retention videos on YouTube. What are some tips to work on these kinds of people? They are always applying slow, crushing pressure, but have no problem being dynamic with their top pressure. Do I just need this to get good? Yeah, I mean, you're complaining about not beating a brown belt who seems to have more fundamentals than you. Better top game wrestling and movement. He's just better than you. I mean, you got to study more. I sincerely hope he sees this post. He has made it to my mental list of people to crush one day, and I need some help from the Reddit. You know what? That's great, man. That he's pushing you, and you're pushing him. It's almost better if you never beat that guy. If you always have him as your goal, and he's always a step ahead of you, he's gonna keep pulling you forward. Let's see. First comment from a black belt says, I didn't read all that, but here's what you do. Whenever you are in a position you don't want to be in, just say you're working on your top game and you like to reset on top. Yo, yeah, don't do that. Or coach him through after he passes and gets to side control. I can't read that one right there. You've been studying my techniques, I see. Wow, this sub-meta meme game is top notch. Yeah, nothing serious on here. Yeah, they're all over the place. Let's see some real answers, guys. Come on, Reddit. Nobody's being very serious. Here's one guy. Octopus guard might be worth looking into. Yeah, Craig Jones, octopus guard. Everybody should know that Eduardo Tellez is the inventor of the octopus guard. And I think he used it mostly for MMA, so that's pretty cool. I think if you know he's going to beat you in the wrestling exchanges, you just need to pull guard and try your best not to let him pass. There you go. That's all you have to do. Pull guard, work your guard retention, slow him down, pick a guard that can slow him down, try to get close guard. Usually an open guard is going to deter a lot of the manlet guys, The guy you're describing is probably bad off his back. Yeah. Get him on his back. You sweep him and put pressure, make him panic and gas him. That's like the ideal situation. The likely situation is he crushes your jaw into the mat with his shoulder until the timer runs out. He might just be better. I sent my gym rival a picture of my monthly paycheck. He couldn't make eye contact with me for a week straight. That was all the victory I needed. Okay, that sounds like a Reddit person. Let's see. Just keep training. If you know what he's going to do, then practice the counter/defense and get really good at stopping it. Otherwise, the guy is bigger and better, so you're in for a rough ride, unfortunately. Maybe, yeah, I can't read that part either. Have you considered adding a turtle system to your game? If I understand you where you're stuck, it may be you build base, focus on fighting the chin strap, while not immediately giving up inside space, and maybe recover. Um, the guy says, actually, awesome advice. My turtle game is definitely a lacking component. I mean, you don't want to put too much time and effort into a turtle, just a little bit to save yourself. I'm not incompetent in bottom turtle, but I'm definitely not well versed enough to instinctually think to turtle when traditional BJJ reguarding isn't working. This guy says, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. Turtle too often, but it's solid. Yeah, you don't want to turtle too much. It's not a good habit. I was going to suggest this, since your friend seems to have your side control escape system solved. Adding in a new element would be game changing. Neil Mendelson, Tactical Turtle, is probably the best video if you like instructionals. Prit and Tellis are also good, but Nils has the best options for finding a path out of turtle. So one pet peeve of mine is whenever people kind of downplay Tellis and they bring up these other guys, but you got to realize Tellis has proven himself. What have these other guys done? They have not proven themselves. I can go look up Telez. I have a video on Telez on my other YouTube channel. You can see him beating some of the best guys in the world. Some of your GOATs he's competed against. He's beat Felipe Pena in Nogi Worlds. He's gone the distance with several of the best athletes you probably even heard of. So I don't. You can't put him with those other guys. It's just impossible. These other guys might be good. They might be okay. They might have great instructionals. But, I mean, when you're looking to see what worked under the best or the highest level, it's got to be Eduardo Telez. All right. Yeah, this guy, I don't know, man. Talk to your coach. It sounds like his fundamentals might be out of whack. You know, purple belts usually kind of specialists. They specialize at this point. The guy is heavier. He's higher belt. And he's got more fundamentals. It's gonna be a rough game. So this purple belt's got some holes in his game. He's got to open up his brain, man. He's got to think. I think in the last video, you know, it was impossible to please the students. You know, either they didn't want any instruction or they wanted every answer instead of going out there and testing out the moves and getting the data for themselves. So I'm already early in the morning. I'm already getting ramped up with this Reddit. So now we got, is BJJ a cult? So that's a great way to start our day, right? And there's a lot of videos like this, so we're gonna go one at a time. And again, I'm just doing a reaction, so please don't hit me with a copyright strike. Those things suck. So usually to kind of fight that off, I come up here and I move my head or something. There we go. There we go. Poop. So hopefully I don't get hit with that copyright strike. Copyright strikes suck. So yeah, in-depth analysis of BJJ cults. So hopefully it's not too bad. You know, I'll defend jiu-jitsu as much as I can, but sometimes I can't defend jiu-jitsu.
Let's look at whether BJJ is a cult. If you're interested to find out, stay tuned. Hey, critical thinkers of martial arts. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Rokas. I've been an Aikido practitioner for more than 15 years. I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA. I fought in the cage once, and I traveled around the world, trained with various experts. So I have a bit of a, more or less of a rounded experience, and maybe not as much as everyone, but I did a lot of investigating into what martial arts are, what positive influence martial arts give, and what negative influence they give. And recently I made a video called Is Aikido a Cult?, where I used a famous model known as the Bite model, created by Stephen Hassan, a leading expert of cults and mind control. That model helps you understand whether an organization that you belong in is, first of all, is it a cult? Then second, is it a destructive cult, or is it like a regular kind of just cultish experience, which is not, you know, the worst? And also too, Stephen Hassan makes a good point that cult is not necessarily bad. Usually people use the word cult in a pejorative way, like, you know, they already related with mind control. But
don't join cults.
As Stephen Hassan points out, first of all, if you look at the definition of a cult, it's primarily a a devoted or kind of almost religious following of a certain individual or a certain rule set. So that can happen. There can be Apple can be considered a cult. The Mac cult.
It is.
There's the PlayStation cult. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Or there's a cult of some celebrity, and it's technically a cult, but it's not like the destructive cult which creates a lot of shit in your life. But there are those cults which are really bad for you, even if sometimes unknowingly, and that's probably somewhere in the middle of the Bible model, where it's not entirely destructive. It's not like consciously destructive, but it's not healthy either. And I think that's where Aikido often gets into that kind of the middle realm, sometimes maybe even destructive. But I think in many cases, Aikido specifically, or as an example, it unintentionally becomes a cult and abuses the power sometimes without even understanding that, and creating bad negative effects on their students. And then there are those destructive cults like the Moonies, which Stephen Hassan actually was part of, which is deliberately fooling you and mind controlling you. And that's a whole different level. Having all of this in mind, the question does come up, also checking and asking, is BJJ a cult? And that question does come up sometimes, not as often I think as in Aikido. And in this video I'll do my best to take a critical look at it. I will introduce to you some unsavory articles and information that I discovered recently myself about some aspects of BJJ, which will help us figure out whether BJJ can be a cult or not. Also we will be looking at the bite model and applying it to ask, is the BJJ typically that you discover, is that a cult or not? And specifically, or mostly, I will be focusing on my personal experience, because that's the best thing I know. But also too, I will be throwing out some ideas, some of the things I heard or read about other schools of BJJ,
the cult,
to ask the question whether
he's on the run.
Some other schools that I haven't been may be cults, which are training BJJ. And just to give you a bit of a sense of my background very quickly before we get started, I took some notes. So I actively trained BJJ for about 3 years, then afterwards it's just on and off. I trained in 5 countries, including different states in US, in California, in Oregon, in Atlanta, maybe somewhere else. I don't keep track of those things. But so I trained in a bunch of places, at least in 10 different academies altogether around the globe. So as always, I invite you to grab your preferred beverage, take a sip with me, and let's get started. So the way we're going to do this, I prepared a bunch of articles on my laptop, and I will be showing you some of the stuff I found. But actually, just before I go into the unsavory stuff about BJJ that's online, I do want to say that, already give a disclaimer, that personally, I think that BJJ tends not to be a cult. We will start with the unsavory stuff, but that doesn't mean like that's the whole picture. That doesn't mean like this is everything. That's what I think about BJJ. But I'm often blamed for being biased, and I can see why, and maybe I sometimes am a bit biased, but that specifically relates to Aikido and traditional martial arts. I do tend to be heavy on them and criticize them, or just put, we started off as cult guys, bad stuff up at the front, and to say like, look, there's terrible stuff happening in Aikido and traditional martial arts. They don't know what they're doing, and things like that. And I think I do that usually because I feel there's already Aikido schools usually are taking care of themselves by promoting themselves and saying the good stuff. They usually leave out the bad stuff and don't address it themselves. And that's why I feel like, I'm like a countermeasure, like a counterbalance weight. I'm like, okay, well, not necessarily no one, but there's not a lot of voices about the negative stuff, so I feel the urge to put out the negative. There's enough positive out there already. With BJJ, I tend to be very positive because I love BJJ. I think it's a great practice, and that's where people are like, oh, you're biased, you hate Aikido, and you throw shit at Aikido, and then with BJJ, you're all, this is the best, and this is great, and it's true that I didn't publish a lot of negative videos about BJJ, if any, maybe just questioning a part here, a part there. And this is the first time I'm taking this more kind of let's do this type of approach. And that's why I feel I want to put that counterbalance, because I'm usually very positive about BJJ. So let's start with the unsavory and then go to the savory stuff, more savory stuff. So if we take a look,
see why I had to put it up
here.
like
This is an article at Bloody Elbow. It's about Team Lloyd Irvin. I'm sorry,
remember,
English is not my primary language. I may do some mistakes here. Crippled by mass exodus of top students after yet another scandal. So do take note, this was released in 2013, so things might have changed, but still, I think it's an important article to address. Some of the things that are written there, actually the first paragraph, it says it's a cult of power. It's not really about sex or anything. So note, sex is already mentioned, so we're gonna get to that more later. It's what I can take from you. Who can I hold down to get what I need? How can I make people see me in a light that I want them to see me, so I can manipulate the world around me? It's a huge power game from top to bottom. So if we look at some other stuff, there's a statement from a student who shares what another female student opened up to him and told him, or her, actually I'm not sure. She explained the details of secret sexual interactions she had with her martial arts instructor and employer. She started with the question, are you supposed to do anything to become a world champion? I replied, yes, there are sacrifices you must make to become a world champion, and you're going to have to do some things that other people won't do to become a world champion. She began to cry as she explained. So we're talking here about asking for a sexual favor, as far as I understand reading this article, and using wanting to become a champion as a tool, which is completely manipulative. So this is pretty much straight on to destructive cult. This is straight on to mind control, manipulation. So this is really, really dark stuff. This is the worst so far I have seen as an example of something terrible that happened in BJJ, apart from some sexual allegations, which are apparently out there too. But we'll talk about that either later in another video. But we're looking at a BJJ school, and the instructor who seemed to be very much into the destructive cult mentality. So there's another point. She said that when she first joined the team, she was given a set of rules. She was told exactly how she should act. Everyone on the team follows the principles of the android. An android does what they are commanded with no question and no hesitation. Whatever the programmer says, the android does. According to the martial arts instructor, this correlates to martial arts. If the coach gives a command and the athletes hesitate or question for a moment, it can cost them the match. That is the importance of being an android. I would dare say that this very easily falls into the level of a destructive cult. And again, at the next section of the video, we will look at the bite model, and I will give more specific examples and pointers to why these are really clear signs of a cult. But to already kind of warm you up, one of the reasons why I looked at Aikido and posed that possibility that it tends to be a cult is because there's the lack of questioning. There's the I tell you what to do and you do it. And in this school specifically, that's clearly the way it goes. Questioning is not encouraged. You have to obey, you have to follow the rules. And the issue is that the way I see the situation, it's a lot about power play. The instructor holds the power because the person who came to this place, especially those who, and as we look at the article, the people who were affected most by this are mainly people who wanted to be champions. There were some stakes there. The students wanted to get something that they really cared for from the instructor, and the instructor promised that to them, and he manipulated that power to ask for additional favors, which part of were apparently sexual favors. And one more thing, I always try to be cautious when taking just one article and quoting it. There's always disinformation, there's always, misinterpretation, but if you look at that specific subject of Team R-Ring, there are quite a few articles which came out that year, and very prominent figures in BJJ, including Keenan Cornelius and some other world level champions who were part of that organization for a while. They spoke out. So actually, specifically Ryan Hall, another UFC fighter, famous BJJ practitioner, he even wrote a whole letter referring to his experience being there, and he said, "What I definitely did not understand at the time was that I had unknowingly joined the beginnings of a cult, and its center was a figure perceived by many, perhaps most notably by the figure himself, to be some sort of a messianic individual deserving of unflinching devotion, total commitment regardless of his actions. Of course, there were signs, but I rationalized them away as best as I could initially. Perhaps I just didn't understand the workings of someone who did everything in his power to convince me that he was above the judgment of the little people beneath him. Looking back, I realized that my inability to see what was right in front of my nose was simply denial, an emotional defensive mechanism. It was attempting to save me from the pain of coming to terms with the fact that some of the people I'd put intense amounts of faith and trust in were not only completely unworthy of my devotion, but were actively manipulating me and others to our detriment for their own, often minor benefit." So you see, that's exactly what I was saying too in Ryan Hall's letter, which is actually a lengthier letter. I'll leave all the links in the description and the comment at the top of the comments, so you could read those articles if you're interested to dig in. I think it's definitely worth just to see what's out there, to see that not everything is perfect and no one is unsusceptible to the cult mentality, and to see maybe there are some signs off in where you are too. So there's one more section which I wanted to share with you, and it's actually the last paragraph in the Bloody Elbow article. So as one of the former students put it, "The level of manipulation and control over everyone in the system is absolutely insane. It's not direct, you don't know it, you don't know what's happening. It's conversations in the dark. It's text messages at 2 a.m, and insults and isolating you inside a group where you can't remove yourself from the group because everyone else is your enemy type of shit." This is really destructive cult 101, isolating people and creating power dynamics, and making them into rivals, because one of the things cults do is they don't want you to have sane friends or sane people, or especially outsiders, who would take a look and say to you, like, look, this is really bad, what is happening here, or also too, if you're in a good relationship with other people, you can sit down and start to talk about it and say, well, this is kind of weird. But if you're enemies, you won't talk about that, or somebody, if you consider someone to be an enemy and they will tell you this is a cult, you will not believe them because you consider them an enemy. You will think they're trying to fool you. So really, again, basic cult 101 stuff. Now, the main reason I wanted to bring up these articles, I usually tend to be very positive about BJJ, and I don't think that that's without merit. Personally, my experience within the 10 different academies and different countries and organizations. It was majorly positive, and that's different from my experience with traditional martial arts or Aikido. In most of the Aikido schools, which again, I traveled the whole world and I've been in different places, there would be different degrees, but most of them had cult-like mentalities. Most of them had toxic behaviors, much more so than I experienced in BJJ. And personally, I am an advocate for BJJ being a generally more positive practice. I believe one of the issues, or actually a couple of issues, in regards to comparing, so if we're comparing Aikido and BJJ in the cult aspect, one of the issue with traditional martial arts and Aikido is there's a very strong, powerful hierarchical system. So meaning, in Aikido, it comes from Japan, and Japan has that hierarchy thing, and I think Westerners, personally, I think that they abuse that. They kind of overuse that. They really emphasize it so much. And as one Japanese lady who I met while training Aikido, she told me that when she moved from Japan to the States and she went to try out Aikido, she was shocked because she found Westerners acting more Japanese than Japanese. They were kind of overdoing it. And I think that, again, that creates a whole series of problems and kind of cult dynamics and power issues, power plays, toxic power plays. On the other hand, when I asked that same question about BJJ generally doesn't have those those hierarchical structures as much. And I was led to believe, and I think that's probably true. I was told that Brazilians, they tend to have a mentality which is counter hierarchical, or not necessarily hierarchical, but they don't like rules. They don't like the obeying. They're more kind of revolutionaries. And I heard that in a number of places. I cannot say 100% if it's true. But it seems that there's that tendency. And so when jiu-jitsu or judo came to Brazil, came to the Gracie family, or and other families, they weren't as hyped about, oh, let's make this very strict, let's replicate the Japanese thing. No, they were interested in the efficiency. And I think that's a great thing about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in general. It's mostly concerned about efficiency and not so much about hierarchy. Of course, now as we see, there are extreme cases. There are variations when that does not apply, where the hierarchy maybe exists in some schools, and that's where you should get the cult vibe. But generally, the BJJ schools I was in, they tend to be more casual. The bows are, like, at the end, the way the pigeon bows, the people bow, I'm like, coming from a traditional background, martial arts background, I'm like, is this a bow? It's funny to me, but at the same time, I enjoy it because it's like, nobody cares about the bowing that much, and so, the rules usually are not as strict, and nobody cares about them as much in most of the jiu-jitsu schools, and maybe that comes from the Brazilian mentality, because the Brazilians brought this type of jiu-jitsu to the States and the West. Another thing which usually trips Aikido and traditional martial arts is usually the lack of pressure testing. So that in Aikido, for example, again, the martial art I know best from my experience, man. There, it's like, grab me here, I will do a technique on you, and you fall, and there's a lot of cooperation. There's usually no sparring, there's no competition in most Aikido styles, and so that can easily trick you into, first of all, believing that you're the best. And I kept talking about that again and again in different videos, because when you believe that you're the best, you're unchallenged, your ego has a tendency to really blow up and become huge, and there's no countermeasure to make you more humble. The humbleness comes to your own responsibility, and it's really hard to be humble in that environment. You can be, but it takes extra effort. In jiu-jitsu, usually I discover that it's the opposite. In jiu-jitsu, you will be crushed and destroyed again and again. You will lose over and over. And so that naturally develops humility, and that's where for many years, and still today, I think that's the superiority of jiu-jitsu and combat sports versus traditional martial arts, because the level of failure and constant exposure to failure is much bigger, and that usually leads to more humility. Now, the thing is, something that I start to suspect is that it's not entirely 100% case all the time. And usually when I start to see things going off in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's usually at the top levels. It's usually in the places where the power is the greatest, where it's like top athletes or top schools who, like the I-Ring team, they are known, or at least we're known as one of the top places to train champions. And so when you're the best of the best, it's much easier to bloat your ego. Nothing challenges you as much, because in jiu-jitsu usually the structure is that there's always someone better than you who defeats you. But what happens when you're at the top? What happens when your defeat occurrence becomes less and less so? I think that's where the danger becomes much more possible. And again, you can still be humble out of your character and out of your sense of responsibility, but I tend to see the tendency that that's the place where in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu the ego can blow up more. And again, I cannot say it's 100% true, but it's a hypothesis I have, and I think there's some merit to it. So let me know in the comments whether you agree with that or not. So basically what I'm trying to say is that I personally feel that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has a tendency to be less cult-like in general, but it's not protected 800% either. And that's why I think it's important to continue on and looking at the details and nitpicking and understanding. So what can make a BJJ organization or academy a cult, and what conditions show to you that it's not a cult? And there's actually one more thing that I want to bring your attention to. So as I was doing some investigation for this article and looking for articles about BJJ and cults, mostly it was the cult of Lloyd that came up. But what caught my attention and what was most interesting to explore was an article from Jiu-Jitsu Brotherhood written by Nicholas Gregoriades, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, where he's discussing about BJJ potentially being a cult, and he says, beware the Creonte subcult. I hope I'm saying Creonte right, okay? So he states, perhaps one of the most corrosive things in the art is the Creonte subcult. For those of you who don't already know, the word Creonte means traitor, as a term many coaches and academies use to label anyone who trains at more than one gym. They do this for the same reason a cult leader doesn't want you to check out the new church down the street. Fear. So this is something some of my viewers already brought my attention to, especially when they said I'm too biased, and especially a few years ago, I was just completely positive about BJJ and seeing nothing negative, and some of my viewers said, well, look at this. And the whole traitor thing, that was definitely around Aikido. That's definitely, in my experience, in traditional martial arts. In Aikido, it was common to really dish on other Aikido schools, to be like, oh, they are wrong, or even on other styles. Even like if you go and train MMA, they're like, oh, you're training MMA, that's for brutes, and Aikido is much more sophisticated. And so they would kind of make you feel like a traitor. Not all schools, and I think it's getting better. I think Aikido is becoming more open about cross training, especially like a decade ago. I think cross training or training in other schools usually was not encouraged. And I definitely don't think all BJJ schools are like that. Again, I think I'm lucky. Well, not only lucky, I guess I became, after my Aikido experience, I became more picky.
So prior to the internet, schools usually had a distinctive style that they didn't want to get out to other schools. They were more secretive. You had the secret techniques of your school. They didn't want you cross training, giving away the secrets. And that's kind of, it's one of the main reasons. Obviously they didn't want to lose students and things like that. But with the advent of the internet, I got to see that real time, YouTube, real time, seeing that the school slowly had to become more open because all the information was out there. There's still some details, there's still some strategy things that we can separate by the schools. Certain schools have a distinctive style still. But even those schools, they have their own like online programs where you can watch them train and see their techniques. So everything just got more open. So we went from being very closed off, kind of like Japan back in the day. We went from being very closed off to being open. So now you have access to everything. So when I hear people complaining about not being able to improve or not being able to learn something new or anything, I'm like, man, you guys have everything. You got everything at your disposal. So you have no reason to not succeed. So that's kind of where this is going.
Where I train. And so I guess most of the places I trained in were just healthy environments, and no one had trouble with me training anywhere else that I wanted to. It was my free will. But the fact that there's a term for a traitor, a Brazilian term from what I understand, in jiu-jitsu, and it seems it's a common enough phenomena, that is a bit of a worry sign. And that does bring me back into thinking about the Gracies, which a number of BJJ practitioners that I met across the globe would call them, a mafia. And I from hearing the stories and investigating into that, so I'm not going to make this video about that. And I think the Gracies are great. Let's avoid the Gracies. Put it out there. I think I have huge respect for them. That's the biggest cult. Most of them are doing great work. But there are some concerning stories about some of the things they did, how they managed the situations, and that does put a questioning mark on, it's maybe not as ideal and perfect as sometimes we want to believe. I think the Gracies sometimes are glorified and godified in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu culture, maybe not always, maybe not by everyone, but I think that their tendency is there. Even also too, I don't have as much knowledge here, but from what I gather, there are more schools, there are more Brazilian practitioners who got BJJ out there, but the Gracies put themselves so much on the forefront that usually that the spotlight goes all to them, and that's a bit of a cult mentality because, as I mentioned, a cult is an organization where there's a devotion towards a particular figure. So I'm not saying that's a cult cup right here, 100% cult thing, but that's something to take a look at as well. That glorification of a single family, of a single legendary figure, that also is a bit cult-like. So that I think should be looked at with care and not abused. But yet again, just to summarize this point and to clarify the fact that the Creonte, the traitor term exists, it does show that jiu-jitsu does have some tendencies and some and the chances
It's not as
to be
bad as it used to
cult-like.
be.
And again, I
No,
don't think
it's not
it's
as
as
bad.
bad
It's
as
still
other
around, but it's
organizations
not
and
as
other
bad.
martial arts, but it's not completely pure and untouched by the possibility of a cult. Now, for the last section of this video, before going to the summary, I intended this video to be a bit.
I'm gonna let you guys finish that video. It's called is BJJ a cult? So if you guys want to watch the rest of the video, I got it linked right there. You guys can see. It's right there. You know me, I gotta move on, bro. Got stuff to do, other videos to work on. There we go. Maybe I can make myself big while I'm jacking around over here. Oh, no, I can't. Hey, there we go. I'm back. Let's go back to Reddit. So says, I switched gyms and I feel like a dummy. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. 3-stripe blue belt here. Just switched gyms to one of the best around my city/country. I'm looking to compete. I used to believe I was ready for my purple belt, being 24 and athletic. I've been training for 4.5 years. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Yeah. I be reading some of this stuff. I'm like, man, get to the right point. Well, turns out I feel like a dummy in my new gym. Oh, yo, a Redditor didn't do well in real life? What happened? There's no easy rolls, and sometimes I feel like I should go back to white belt. You probably should, especially with the leg lock game. I realize I know nothing. How should I feel about you? You should feel terrible. You should feel bad. No one on one side, I feel it's good because that means I'm surrounded with high-level people. But on the flip side, I feel like I will never reach their level. I train 1.5 hours a day. 1.5 hours, 3 to 5 times a week. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty standard. Yo, this is what happened when Reddit people go to real schools, man. They be like, that Reddit jiu-jitsu is not working. Let's see. Purple Belt says, stop thinking about the level you're at. You're going to get there. Obviously, everyone else did. Just keep going to class. Learn what you can and start honing your game. I kind of wish I went to a stronger gym, but I like my teammates too much to leave them behind. Be glad you got this wake-up call at blue belt instead of when you were a black belt, getting lit up by lower belts. Yeah, we did one post. I think it was like a 7-year black belt. I guess he didn't think that was fast or anything, and then he went to a different school, and then the lower belts were smashing him. This all could have been avoided if he just done his research at the beginning. You should be looking for competitive schools, because some of these other schools, they're just giving belts away. They got a cult in the background. The cult's going full swing, and then you just end up being terrible. Let's see. Another purple belt says, for me, this isn't a career. Otherwise, I would have had to change as well. But yeah, I had the same issue with you. I like my teammates, and chanting only to get better isn't worth it for me, not to mention the further drive. Yeah, Reddit people, they don't want to drive, they don't want to train hard, and then they complain when they suck. How are you complaining that you suck? You don't want to train hard. I'm getting pissed off. They don't want to train hard, and they don't want to drive. They got the better school right down the street, and they're just too comfortable. At what point is jiu-jitsu supposed to be comfortable all the time? You're supposed to be uncomfortable a little bit, at least initially. But yeah, then these guys get bad, and they go on Reddit, then they complain, and they don't take the advice. Let's see, another guy says, your rank aside, it's not uncommon to be caught in a rut when you move to a new gym with a whole different focus in their game. It's not about your level necessarily. I mean, I don't know, man. At this point, again, I talked about having access to everything. Leg locks are around. Worm guard is around. All this stuff is around. If you're in the sport, you're in the community. I mean, how are you behind? You got everything. You can watch Flow Grappling. You can see IBJJF. You can see what everybody's doing, what all the current top people are doing. You can see what all people your level are doing. There's so many resources. There's really no reason to be behind unless your gym is just, I don't know, behind the times. You've made the right choice if you want to compete. Yeah, he wanted to compete. He wants to compete. Now he's complaining. He wants to go back. I don't know what to say. Get your butt kicked. Go through what everybody else got their butt kicked. You just prolonged your butt kicking, all right? In years' time, you will feel completely different and be able to hold your own. It might not feel like it now, but you will catch up. I mean, you weren't really a blue belt. That's the issue. Get back that blue belt. You really a white belt, bro. You really a white belt. Just keep pushing, bro. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't matter how you feel, just show up. Whether you compete or not is typically only matters to you. For context, if you have a tournament, majority of the gym won't even know you had whatever matches. Rest likely won't care. You'll have 5 to 10 people who will either compete with you or ask about it and then forget about it. Bottom line, just train. If you want to compete, do it. If you don't. No, don't tell him he can't compete. He needs to compete. I want him to get that wake up call. He getting a wake up call at the gym. I want him to get the wake up call at the tournament. Because when you do these tournaments, you're a fake blue belt. You do the tournament, you're like, oh dang, I really ain't a blue belt. Actually, that's not a fair comparison because you got some killers at blue belt, you know. But that's the issue with the schools that don't roll. The schools that don't compete, they don't roll, and then people get this false sense that they're good. Even the guy in the last video, the keto guy, said, you know, people think they're better than they are, and then, you know, man, they ain't good. New gyms can be intimidating. Not knowing how to defend or attack the legs at a place that does just that is equivalent of always starting from the knees and going to a place that starts standing. I mean, that's true, but again, you guys can learn individually. Isn't that what everybody says on Reddit? I can learn individually. You can watch Danaher video on takedowns. You can watch whoever video on takedowns. You can watch whoever video on how to defend leg locks. This stuff all been around for years. It's been around for years. You guys just, I don't know. I don't know where you guys. I don't know what these guys are doing. Same thing happened to me. At first was hard, but it was the best thing I did for my BJJ. No regrets. You will take a couple months to acclimate and start to perform. I mean, not every school's a competitive school. I get that. But, I mean, if you're an instructor and you have a school and you know it's a hobbyist gym, you got to still bring some killers down to, like, keep your guys sharp. You know, either you got to do it, you got to keep your guys sharp, or you got to bring someone down to keep your guys sharp. It's just how it's got to be. I mean, I don't know how you guys deal with visitors. What happens if you have a tough visitor? All right, man, he's tearing through the whole school. Tore through the whole school. Be happy you found this gym early in your career. That said, if the opportunity comes to cross-train, you might find an even tougher gym. That's true. There's always a tougher gym. Not saying you need to keep searching for tougher gyms. I mean, he can't deal with the gym right here. You need to chill. Catch up, that's it. Happened to me when I tried other gyms. My first was the beginning with all white belts like me. Then I get steamrolled everywhere else. You know, my approach as an instructor was always to prepare the students for the broad world. Prepare the students to go anywhere and they represent that belt, their belt, whatever belt level they are, well. And that's not always the case with a lot of these schools. They're so quick to give belts, stripes, promote people, and then the people, you know, they aren't good. I don't know what else to say. They just aren't good. All right. You know, I get to my threshold when I'm pissed off on Reddit, then I got to switch off. Okay. So now we got another video that says why women should train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Shout out to all my ladies training with all these dudes. I know it can suck a lot of times.
Going on, welcome back to my channel. So
Please
I recently received a
strike,
comment from
reviewing.
a guy named Gohar, and Gohar, I really hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly, but he asked, can you make a video that covers all of the benefits of women joining jiu-jitsu? I have quite a few female friends that I want to introduce to jiu-jitsu, but I don't want them to be weirded out when I directly show them a man sitting in another man's legs. Great question, and I thought that it was the perfect idea for a video. I do have another video that I will list above titled 3 Reasons Why You Should Try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and those are just kind of my opinions, my top 3 reasons why jiu-jitsu is so beneficial for you, but I figured that today's video is the perfect time to include all of the other amazing women in this community to talk about why jiu-jitsu is so great for them. So I reached out to my followers on Instagram and I asked all the ladies ladies that train jujitsu to tell me all of the benefits that jujitsu has given them. So I'm super excited to share their responses, so let's get chatting. Okay, so I've got about a little over 40 responses yesterday, which is so great. All of these responses are just amazing, and it makes me so happy that all of these women love jujitsu so much and that it's done so many great things for them. But a reoccurring answer, probably in almost every response, was confidence. So let's pull a few of those answers out. So some of the answers that talk about how jujitsu has built their confidence. Feeling confident if I need to defend myself. Jujitsu has made me feel more confident and strong. It has given me confidence and it shows me how much more I can take mentally and physically. Confidence in defending myself. Confidence 100% to do anything. Changed my life, improved my confidence. Feeling more confident on the streets. I only train stand-up, so jujitsu has added another element. Boosted my confidence and helped my daily mindset. I've gained so much confidence. You get it. Pretty much everyone has gained confidence from doing jujitsu. And a big part of this new self-confidence
for the people on Reddit.
is self-confidence.
People on Reddit don't gain their
being
confidence
able
back.
to protect yourself, being
They
able
lose their
to
confidence.
defend yourself if, God forbid, something were to go down and you had to defend yourself. I've talked about this before, and in my humble opinion, I think that jujitsu is the best form of self-defense for women.
That's up
And
there.
honestly, not even
Maybe some
because of the
kickboxing, a little bit
things and the
kickboxing.
techniques that you learn in class, but because you are put to the test every single time you train. In the second half of the class, you are partnered with another woman, you're partnered with another man, and you are live rolling, or AKA sparring. And you're both trying to get to dominant positions, you're both trying to get submissions, and you are put into super uncomfortable positions, and you are forced to learn how to deal with it in the moment. You're forced to learn how to get out of there and how to get into a better position. If you don't train and maybe you're thinking about it, I know that this can kind of sound a little scary, especially since we do train with other men in the room. But look how many other women train jujitsu and how much they love it and how much they're pushing
We're
through
trying to get
all
the
of
girls.
the
We're trying our best to
struggles
get the
and
girls,
all of
man.
the scary things, and they're coming out better.
Keep
from
your
it.
shirts
so
on,
another
guys.
sort of
Be
reoccurring
nice
theme
when you're
in
rolling.
all of these answers is strength.
Don't
Now
be
look,
creeps.
I come from being active my whole life. I played soccer my whole life, I ran track, and then once I became an adult in my 20s, I started lifting weights regularly. At one point, I thought about entering into a bodybuilding competition, which I'm very happy that I decided not to do because I found jujitsu instead. So I definitely know a thing or two about having really tough workouts. But listen, let me tell you, there is nothing like a jujitsu training session. And not to downplay other sports, everyone works
Go ahead and
hard in the
downplay 'em.
sport
Downplay
or
'em.
the physical
It's okay.
activity they do.
Don't
But
explain
quite
it.
honestly, I just think jujitsu is the toughest. So what are some answers about how
you heard
much
it, guys.
jujitsu
Heard it from
has
her.
made them stronger? Challenging myself mentally and physically, jujitsu has made me feel more confident and strong. It's improved my confidence, safety, and health. Love that. It showed me my body's strength and what I can do with it. It's improved my cardio and body shape. I'm so much stronger physically and mentally. So why is jujitsu such an amazing and tough workout? Let me tell you. To me, you're kind of combining all aspects of working out and physical shape in one at the same time. It's cardio, it's agility, power, stamina. You're pushing, you're pulling, and you're pushing and pulling somebody else's body weight, who is giving you resistance right back. You're using muscles that I don't even think you knew existed. I have never sweat so much in my life as I do
You're gonna be
when I
sweaty.
train jujitsu. And I think that everyone watching this, I think you all can agree. When I'm done training, especially if it was a really, really tough session where it was just really intense in the room, I walk off the mat as if I just came out of the shower. I'm not even exaggerating. So now let's talk about the mental strength that jujitsu provides. You know, obviously it's a major physical workout,
Vibe to
as
this
we just
music, guys.
mentioned, but our health is so much more than just physical health. Mental health is just as important. And thankfully, jujitsu can absolutely help with that too. So let's dive into some of these mental health benefits that jujitsu has to offer. Someone says, improved focus has helped me through anxiety and depression. Confidence, like self-esteem and perception. Focus, mental health, and body confidence. I no longer care if my hair and makeup are done.
Yeah,
That
hair
is
and
some
makeup,
serious
nails.
self-confidence right there. I love that. Mental and emotional balance. So important. Words cannot express how much it helps me, helping me through my anxiety and PTSD. It for sure has helped my anxiety. Due to trauma, I've been fearful of men. I've learned to trust my male teammates and let go of the past. These are all really, really powerful, just amazing answers. And I'm so grateful that these women have felt comfortable enough to share them with me so that I can share them with the rest of the world. So let's break it down a little bit. How exactly can jujitsu help you with your anxiety, depression, any other kind of struggle that you are mentally dealing with, PTSD? So one thing in particular I think that a lot of people struggle with, and maybe a lot of people don't talk about, is social anxiety. For me, that's always been a pretty big
Yeah, a lot of
thing. And when I think back to my
socially anxious
childhood, I
people.
think I've always struggled with it. I'm a bit more introverted
people
and I
without
hate big
social
social
skills.
situations where I don't know a lot of people. Showing up to a place by myself where I don't know anyone is literally my worst nightmare. And that's kind of exactly what joining a new jiu-jitsu jiu-jitsu school is. You're stepping into this room, you're stepping on the mat with 30, 35, 40 other brand new people, and you don't know any of them, and you're forced to kind of go into this close physical contact with them. Hello, anxiety. It can be really scary, but the more that you do it, the more that you show up, the easier that it gets. For those of us that have felt general anxiety or anxiety about specific situations, maybe you struggle with anxiety, debilitating anxiety every day, I think jiu-jitsu can be so helpful with this. Hear me out. When we are rolling, when we are sparring in class, like I said, we are put into these really, really tough, these really uncomfortable situations, and naturally our body, especially when we're beginning, can go into sort of fight or flight mode, right? Like we want to get the heck out of there. But after training for a little while and you're constantly put into these really tough situations, you learn how to almost mentally calm down in the moment. You learn how to breathe calmly versus like hyperventilating, and you learn almost how to take in the moment and figure out where you are in this space and how you can defend yourself and how you can get out of that tough spot and put yourself into a better spot. And then two, because you're in this super tough situation and you're so uncomfortable, that doesn't leave any room for outside thinking. If you have things going on outside of jiu-jitsu in your personal life, in your work life, in your relationships, whatever is going on, when you are rolling in class, there is no room to even think about those things, because if your mind ventures away from the role that you are in that very moment, you could potentially put yourself into an even worse spot. You know, kind of like the cliche saying, the very surface level saying is, anxiety is when you are focusing on the future, depression is when you are focusing on the past, and believe me, I think there's a lot more to it than that. But the point of saying that is, jiu-jitsu truly forces you to be present in the moment. You are forced to just be right here in that very second when you are rolling
the plants.
with
Did
your
anybody else
partner,
just notice the
because
plants
if you focus
all of a sudden?
on anything else, like I said,
plant
you
wall
could
right there on
potentially
the,
put yourself into a way worse spot and
right here.
potentially
That's pretty
maybe
awesome.
hurt yourself. So
Sorry,
if
getting
you
distracted.
are thinking about joining jiu-jitsu, I hope that this video gave you an idea of all of the wonderful things that it has to offer to you. I hope that this video, and I hope that all of the amazing responses that I got from the ladies in the jiu-jitsu community kind of give you a little push to maybe call the school, maybe sign up for your first trial class. I hope that this kind of just pushed you in the right direction. Jiu-jitsu has just really incredible benefits, and even more than what we talked about in this video, but to kind of recap it. So as a woman training jiu-jitsu, I think number one, it gives you this form of self-defense. It teaches you how to protect yourself. It teaches you, I think, to first and foremost become aware of what's going on around you. It gives us amazing physical benefits. Like I said, I think that jiu-jitsu is the best workout that you could ever do. Jiu-jitsu is truly amazing for our mental health. If you are struggling with any kind of mental health issue, I am a firm believer that jiu-jitsu can be one of the components that can help you. It gives us body confidence. It teaches us how to use our bodies in ways that we didn't think that we could. It shows us that we can do more than we thought that we could, and it shows us that we can handle more than we thought that we could. For some of us, it can give us a sense of purpose. It can give us something to focus on other than the daily stressors that we deal with in life. And lastly, it gives us a sense of community. I think that as adults, something that's really difficult sometimes is making new friends. Making friends outside of work or making friends other than the people that you grew up with. Sometimes it can be challenging as an adult, but jiu-jitsu is a surefire way to meet amazing people. It's a surefire way to meet people that are like-minded as you, and really it kind of gives you this new family. So again, I hope that this video was helpful. If anyone is thinking about trying out jiu-jitsu, I hope that this video has given you that little bit of a push to go and give it a shot. I promise that it is only going to help you, it's only going to benefit you, and it's only going to make you a better person. If this video did those things for you, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you are not subscribed to my channel, as always, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. And until
that was a great little video, man. That's Kimberly Kinch. I'll give her a subscribe and a like. That was a good video. Just very lighthearted and positive, you know. I go on Reddit and I just get angry. I get angry. But I definitely will check out some more of her videos. So speaking of Reddit, PSA, don't get put off if you only train once a week. That I need some sound effects on here, man. Maybe I can figure that out. I need some sound effects. I love BJJ. The only frequent negative I see is the culture around obsessive training. You do not have to train obsessively in order to enjoy and get better at BJJ or jiu-jitsu. You need to be consistent. It's very different. I have multiple friends that have been turned off of coming to class due to research they've done online about how you need to go 4 times a week to get any good. I think you do. That's not that much. This annoys me. Has anyone else experienced this? Who you have to go to class to get better? I mean, you don't have to go to class to get better, but I mean, it's the fastest way, the most efficient way to get better. For context, I'm a fairly fresh blue belt. Why are you making this post, bro? You don't know nothing, bro. You don't know nothing, bro. I'm a fairly fresh blue belt who currently trains once a week due to having a young family. I understand. I trained 2 to 3 times a week before my son was born. Still not that much, but been training for over 3.5 years. Yeah, he was a white belt for a while. Are people surpassing me who started after me? Yes. Will I ever be a black belt? Probably not. Yeah, you gotta accept that. But that's cool. I am getting better slowly, and that's very fine. I mean, by the time you get better, jiu-jitsu gonna evolve. Yo, we're gonna have Space Guard. There's a Galaxy Guard, but by the time you actually get in there, it's gonna. I don't know, man. I've seen people with families. I have friends that just had kids. Shout out to Clinton and shout out to Igor. I mean, these guys still train a few times a week. If it's a priority for you, and your spouse understands, hey, my husband needs to go train, they're gonna let you train. I mean, you can bring the kids to training. That's something my friend Eugene does. He's got 3 kids. He be bringing them kids. They don't always want to be there, but he's training, and they're gonna wait till he's done. I mean, if it's important to you, you'll do it. If you just want to train, you're happy training once a week, 2 times a week. Okay, but I don't want to see the next post. Oh, why aren't I getting my purple belt? I train twice a week for 5 years. Let's see. Any training is better than none. But 3 times is a good hobbyist rate for consistent progression. Most of the guys who complain about progression are guys who don't put in a lot of time. At the end of the day, any day you can show up is going to make you better in the long run. But more time on the mats will progress you faster. Agreed. When I trained 3 times a week, I felt like I was getting better quickly. We'll hopefully get back to that at some point over the next couple of years. I mean, if you keep having kids, probably not. I mean, for him. I do wonder how many people burn out in the ambition to get good as quickly as possible, though. I can think of 3 guys at my gym that have been training multiple years, and I might see them each between 5 to 12 times a year. They always seem to be having a blast when they train, and one of them even competes from time to time. And that's fine. The general consensus I see and agree with is once a week to maintain, 2 to progress. I think telling someone that training once a week will severely hinder your ability to improve is just honest. Yeah, it's honest. In my limited experience, I would agree. I think my wider point is that people are being alienated by the narrative that in BJJ, it has to become this all-consuming thing in your life. 4 times a week is all-consuming? I mean, 4 times a week is all-consuming? When in reality, you have to meet lots of people and have a lot of fun and get fit from limited time investment. I don't know what this guy's saying. Agreed. My training frequency since I started has been as high as 4 times and as low as 1. I currently train 2 to 3 times depending on my family schedule. In my opinion, 1 time is just maintenance. It's better than 0, of course, but I think 2 to 3 is ideal for hobbyists. I hope these guys aren't just not working out. Like, all right, I'm just going to work out once a week. I hope these guys are. You guys got to stay healthy. What are you guys doing? I mean, if you're not doing jiu-jitsu, I hope you're doing something. Walking, running, working out, something. You got to be active, man. Yeah, this sub can really put people off, especially when a hobbyist asks for tips on improving. Then there is always someone who says they should just train more frequently because that's the best way to improve. I have seen plenty of hobbyist dudes that have become very good for hobbyists, obviously. Okay, for hobbyists. While training 3 times per week. After a certain time in my training, more does not equal better skill. It's just you just train mindlessly without focusing on certain parts of your game. I mean, that's you. Some people go to the gym and they're focused every time. It's coming from a purple belt. He knows better than me. Now I try to pick a position and work on it for a few months. I mean, obviously, if you did that and you train more than 3 times a week, you're going to progress faster. This involves looking up instructionals to understand the position, trying to work on the moves during live rolls for lower belts. They often don't work initially, and I get crushed by lower belts. I mean, you should be doing that regardless. I mean, obviously use your time efficiently, but I mean, every time you go into the gym, you should be focused and working on something and ready to do something. I don't know how these guys be training, bro. I mean, they don't train. Yeah, I train 1 to 2 times per week. It's fine. I feel like I'm getting better, a little faster than when I was training 7 to 8 times a week, which was too much. Maybe 3 times would be a sweet spot, but I have other obligations. I mean, life's always going to be there. I don't know how these guys are training. Yo, I don't know. They need some ecological. Speaking of ecological, let me shout out my sponsors. We got BJJ Mental Models. Hey, BJJ Mental Models. Promo code ALEC, ALEC. And I forget the percentage you get off. But, you know, it's one of the best programs out there, especially for you people that don't have a lot of time and you need just more structure. You know, sometimes you need more structure. Everybody on Reddit, you need more structure. Can I point? Everybody on Reddit, you need more structure. And my second sponsor, still working out the details, Inverted Gear, the best gi company. It's got the cutest logo. And, you know, it explains what it is. It's inverted, you know, pandas, inverted, rolling. It's hitting a lot of different elements there. Yes, check out those guys for me. I really, really love the Comp Light. Is it Comp Light? The Comp Gi. I forget the name of it. But that's like my favorite gi right now from Inverted Gear. And let's keep moving on. I think that was it for the Reddit post. Let me take my sponsors off. Uh-oh, not that. And so we're here. What's going on? I'm in my own wrong account. Why did it go? I got different accounts, guys. Uh-oh, you can see some of my other accounts. Nothing to be ashamed about, though. What's going on over here? Was that right? I have no idea. Let me pause it for a second. Yo, I'm back. So we got J-Rod in a gi versus Tyne and Dalbra. So they fought before, so kind of cool that J-Rod's putting the gi on. And yeah, B-Team, this is a reaction video. Please don't hit me with that copyright strike you guys love to hit me with. So that's why I've been moving around in the video. Hey, copyright don't work on me. It might, I don't know. So yeah, let's get started. I'm gonna speed that up, you know. I don't have a lot of time. I do like 1.25. That's kind of my standard over here.
That's the most important. Oh! Holy.
Crab riding the gi, bro, is different, man. It's different than no gi. As you see right there. AOJ, Costa Mesa. This is the first.
All right, what's up, guys? It's the day after the event. It's about 6 a.m. Saturday. We're at AOJ headquarters. So we're at their first gym. We're about to do some gi rounds with Tynan and some of the other guys. I'm hoping to get some loop chokes. I'm hoping to get some barambolos. Going to play some deep worm guard, De La Hiva, inverted.
He's not
sideways.
playing any of that.
Man, I don't even know. I don't know the last time I put a gi on. I don't think Jay's ever worn a gi and trained in it. I'm excited. It's fun to just like switch it up, especially with the best in the sport in the gi. So I'm excited. Let's see what happens.
Kids class. Those are the next killers, bro. The next world champions. We're in that kids class. You know they're gonna mess up the gi.
What's the last time you wore A's?
Years.
Yeah?
Years, bro. Years.
What was your go-to gi move back in the day?
I don't even remember. Like loop chokes, triangles, like bad barambolos, whatever
That's
the hell.
That's kind of sad, man.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know.
Put that gi on. This guy's looking jacked. Well, they in the right place to be jacked, you know? Oh, they put guests on your... No, they didn't. They put guest on there? You don't even get a name. At least they give you a gi to wear. Elbows down, Ethan. Elbows down. I mean, I'm already upset.
You're gonna go Tynan first, and then if you can handle Tynan, you're gonna have to get this other hand. So I have a warrior for you, okay? Just in case, just in case.
That's Guy Mendez, one of the best coaches in the world. I believe that's his son. Yeah, they always mess this part up. Ethan ain't got his strings tucked in, strings hanging all out.
So far,
Man, they about to get massacred. Jesus. No-gi bros, you can't even tie your belt. You don't deserve that belt if you can't tie it, man. He knows what he's doing.
You don't help me.
The kid's like, look at the kid. That kid can't tie his belt either. Ethan did a good job. Ethan knows what he's doing. Look, Ethan got the right proper belt tie. Look at that, man. He know what he's doing. Oh no, he's doing it from behind. Don't ever do it from behind. Do it from the front.
Here?
Ethan did good. I'm impressed, Ethan.
Yeah. E-boys.
Bonus points.
In the house. All right.
That was good. That was a decent belt tie. So you got Tiny rolling with one of the kids. I mean, the kids are killers, even this young. They just do everything the adults are doing, you know, but just smaller package.
You had the match. It was. Yeah. I thought the match would start like would be harder. Would start really like intense. And
is that Taynor?
A little bit bigger than you, so that might be
Taynor?
like tiring.
I don't know what he looks like. That's not the guy that used to own Ruka, is
it?
Good
for you.
Let me know in the comments, guys. That might be Taynor. Am I right?
I thought it was really like the counter that you did every time he shot, like you land on his back and like putting him on bottom every time.
Yeah, I think I won all the exchanges.
But the problem is like when you turtle and you end on bottom and he got them out, then like it's such a big statement for a match where like you're just doing takedowns. You escape, like you did pretty good, like you stay composed and you escape, but that was like the most like effective move in the match, right?
Yeah, it's for sure safe. You can't let a guy pass their guard, no matter what. You can't let a guy like.
And of course, like you got tired when you started too, but you got lazy in the last like 3 minutes there, right? Like you like should not like let that happen. Like should explode and get back on your feet and start pushing him.
I think a lot of it had to do with just not having the same gas tank because I was sick throughout the camp, so I didn't have.
That might be Taynor, guys.
I feel like I wasn't capable of doing the same pace that I usually can do, so that was frustrating. But
when it's happening, but
yeah, I can't tell. Does he have a tattoo on his hand? I don't know.
Pushing and stand up and avoid anything, like the match was yours already. It was yours. Like you didn't have to do anything in the last like 4 minutes.
It's a
it's gonna be a crazy matchup, and like Ronaldo's taller, like it's bigger. I knew he would not like take you down or do much, but I was like, like he's big, like is
that Taynor, guys?
But when I was watching the match, like I thought like you were like dominating the whole time.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It was the same sequence how Tynan took my back. The same wrestle.
So like when it gets towards the end and you're tired, like instead of like going in with your head down, like turtle, or like staying here, because like especially the guys, the black belts, like they, man, if they put their chest on your back or on your chest, it's over. So like, it's the time for you to stand up and like just keep the distance and avoid the guy from getting close to you. You're experiencing this like in a 1 year, 2 year gap, like you're experiencing all of this. So it's gonna push you to improve much faster. You're young, but it's important to recognize what the mistake is so you can correct it for the next match. Like when it hits like the last 5 minutes of the match and you're tired, like you know the other guy's tired, like you need to turn on. Like I'm not gonna do anything, but this guy's also not getting anything on me.
Probably will.
Oh, here we go. Oh, he about to feel the real grip strength.
Oh, you can actually control you.
So, you know, when you do no-gi, you're not used to the grips. So, I mean, you create so much leverage. Look at the paint grip. You create so much leverage. All the like tripod, all that stuff's out the window at that point. And Ethan, he's not using the gi really. J-Rod not really using the gi. I mean, you could try to wrestle, but like, look at you grab the belt. Oh man, so much leverage. Look at that grip. And then he's basically on the back essentially, the crab ride almost. Yeah, he just can't get out. Yeah, it's different game, man. It's a different game. That loose, let me flow out of this. That don't really work in the gi unless you're Rotulo.
Thank you. It's so weird.
This is a warm-up, dog. We haven't even started, Damon.
It's weird. I don't know what to do with my hands. I'm like, yeah.
You gotta grab stuff.
Like I go like this. I'm like, oh, I should grab this, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. And then wrestling don't work the same. Wrestling definitely don't work the same with the gi on. Oh, the passing. They're going kind of light, you know. They could go hard.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
They're going pretty chill, man. They just did the tournament. Who's number one, so they kind of chilling. Nah, see yeah. Can't really slide out. Your escapes ain't really working the same. They are about to get back taken. Look at the brown belt. Yo, hey, oh. The grips, man, yeah, the grips are killing these guys. Triangle. Yo, it's sad, bro. You give me that brown belt, man. You don't deserve that brown belt.
Dude, you can't like just abort, you know? You're stuck, you're in there.
I think like gives you that sense of control.
Yeah, you don't have a no-gi.
You don't have a no-gi.
Yeah.
But then you try to have it, you know, as hard as it is, you do try to have it a little bit.
When you mean for you when you go to no-gi, yeah.
So
I'm trying to.
Sometimes.
It's cool, man. I'm trying
Do
to
both, guys. Do
I'm
both.
trying to bring the lack of control. Like,
Do both, guys.
My way out, but I'm just like stuck. You know? It's different.
Being like held down.
Yeah.
Tiny, you need to fight some good people in
Even
no-gi.
if you just have like some kind of
Not old people or people that
I
are,
can't limp. I can't.
you know, not going to test you.
Yeah. All right.
Well, he did fight J-Rod. That's true. He did fight
I
J-Rod.
actually imagine this being better.
Just do everything, man. Hey. Yeah, they're not using that gi properly.
Nice. Good. You got that college.
A little too wild.
Fuck.
Again.
A little too wild. If you guys want to watch the rest of this, I'll let you guys watch it. I can't watch it anymore. Again, that's J-Rod and Nagi, and this is on B Team. Please don't hit me with that copyright strike. I know you guys really quick to hit that copyright strike. I think we got one more Reddit story. Let me change myself real fast. So many like different buttons and things. I need to figure out how to move it around. And I appear in right there. Boom, I'm back. Training advice for switching from a competitive gym to a hobbyist gym. Is that the same one we just? Oh no. Well, we did one earlier. It was let me just go back real quick. We did one. We did one where they switched the gyms. Okay. And in this one, I don't know if it's a real post or not, but it says, yeah, they both switched gyms. It's different post though. It's different post, I swear. This one says switch gyms and I feel like a dummy, and this one says training advice for switching from a competitive gym to a hobbyist gym. So I think it might be a spoof of the last post. So instead of going from a hobbyist gym to a competitive gym, this person went from a competitive gym to a hobbyist gym. Let's see. He says, I was at a well-renowned gym for the last several years and recently had to relocate across the country for work. Much smaller rural area, so only a couple gyms within a reasonable distance. Not McDojos, but also pretty limited techniques and not a lot of higher belts. I used to always look forward to class. Now drilling/technique time is usually disappointing. Aw. And rolls are hit or miss. I'm by no means trying to train to win worlds, but I also want to invest my time and money in actually improving. Any advice for making the most of my training time and making training a bit more enjoyable again? You're probably going to have to raise the level yourself, bro. Or bring in people, bring in some friends, or do training trips. There's ways to get around that. Let's see. I feel this. I had a very similar experience, and it sounds like you're stuck in a bit of a what is it? What it is? What it is. My advice is to take more accountability over your own training. Study footage, buy instructionals, become aware that your instructor is not the best, and use the internet to learn from those who are the best at what they do. I did this and I grew more than when I was at my gym with an amazing owner. I attribute it to the fact that when I was at the better gym, I could subconsciously rely on my coach to point me in the right direction or help me troubleshoot. Now I am much more competent at troubleshooting and improving on my own, and I'm better at BJJ because of it. Well, you're a brown belt. You should be doing some self-study. My issue is more with the lower belts, white belts, blue belts that are don't have that background, don't have any skill, don't roll. Let's see. As an upper belt, you should be doing your own research already. I mean, think about college. After undergraduate, you go to graduate school. That's all research. You might have some guidance, but you're kind of leading more of the process yourself, right? I've trained at big schools and small schools, and I would say at least half of my knowledge has come from instructionals or other resources outside of my class. My lower belt training partners are just guinea pigs for me to test my skills on. You should also look into dropping into open mats at other gyms from time to time. Let's see. Find a training partner that wants to learn and work with them. This is what I did when I moved to a gym with less refined technique. My training partners had also moved from another area. We ended up both leaving the gym and training exclusively in my garage. I mean, there's definitely tough people there. Don't tell me there's no tough person in that rural area. There's definitely some tough people. You just got to train them up. People will hate this, but training in a garage with a good partner is often better than going to a bad academy. You need a little bit of both. You still need bodies, you know. Purple Belt says, offer to teach a class and then make it your own lab and teach people the stuff they need to learn to help you improve in sparring. Another person says, study instructionals and comp footage and set very explicit goals and limitations on yourself when doing live rounds to keep things focused on what you're studying. Yeah, basically. I believe this is how Hodger said he trained at his school. I mean, he had some killers there too. Don't get it twisted. And I feel like the Estima brothers would pop in, you know. And he could also travel to New York. It wasn't like 6-hour, 7-hour flight to New York. He was good from the UK. From some of his biggest matches at the time, his school was new, so a lot of white belts and blue belts. He couldn't travel far for camp. He just used his students, so he would deliberately handicap himself in rounds to only making a certain thing work. I don't know if he let his students actually tap him though. Probably not. Eventually got to the point where even when people, including high-level competitors, knew what he wanted to do, and still couldn't stop it. Yeah. So he trained with a lot of white and blue belts. I'm sure they were big white belts and big blue belts, but he also had Braulio Estima in UK with him, along with his now Coral belt dad, Mauricio Gomez. While doing part of his camps with Renzo Gracie or at Gracie Baja. So yeah, he still was able to get good training. Well, that's what you got to do. Follow what Hodger Gracie did. Train the best you can with the lower belts, the people in your local area, and maybe bring in, you know, some friends from your old skill. Hey man, you want to come in for a weekend or a week? Come train with me. Come do a seminar. You know, you can bring your old coach. Bring your old coach down for a seminar. And then you can do training trips at your old gym or a new place. There's things you can do, man. There's things you can do. Again, you guys got all these resources. I want you to use them, okay? And last video, I started my first MMA gym with $50. Let's see how he did that. I don't know how he did that. Again, this is a reaction video, so please don't hit me with that copyright strike. You know, I'm allergic to copyright strikes. Hopefully I'm going to keep myself in position.
Where I answered a guy's question about mixed martial arts training, where he's in a situation where there is not a MMA gym in his town. And I suggested for those in a situation where they don't have the type of gym available in their town, that they pull themselves up by the bootstraps and do what they can. Focus on what you can do instead of what you can't.
Inverted gear.
And quite a few people in the comments seem to take this
and BJJ mental bottles. There you go.
As offensive. Oh, Ramsey, you are speaking from a place of privilege, of class privilege.
Inverted gear.
Or this fellow who says, I can't train this martial art in my hometown because my town doesn't have it. In quotes.
Whenever they put their sponsor, I put my sponsor.
To be spoon-fed. That's being realistic with resources. People don't have infinite time and money. Some cannot go 5 to 7 cities over twice a week to train for 3 hours. People don't have infinite time and money. People can't spend an unreasonable amount of time traveling 5 to 7 cities over to train on a regular basis. Really? Whoa. Whoa.
There we go. I think that's.
I had no idea. Did you really think that's what I was telling you? Look, I want to tell you something about the way that I trained. When I was a kid, and I really wanted to learn martial arts to fight off the bullies who were beating me up at school.
Dang, you had a rough karate kid.
I lived in a small town, a small farming town, and there were no martial arts schools there or anywhere close. And so what did I do? I did what I could, because focusing on what I could not do was getting me beaten up. And what could I do? Well, I went to a library. I found books on martial arts. I checked them out. I read them. I studied them. And I got my little brothers together and we practiced together in our yard. And that's the best I could do with what I had. But I did it. Did it give me perfect results? No. But I got out there and I trained and I got some results.
I like this
which
artwork.
are infinitely better than none. At age 17, I graduated high school and I moved to a different state, went to university, and my university offered martial arts classes and had martial arts clubs. And what did I do? I signed up for all of them. I took advantage of that. I finished university. I was no longer privy to those university classes and university clubs. So what did I do? I found like-minded people with similar interests to me and similar goals to me in the martial arts, and we got out there and trained together. I started competing in kickboxing and mixed martial arts, and I didn't have a lot of money. In fact, the reason I got into pro fighting was to make money to pay medical bills, because I was working 3 jobs, and I still didn't have enough money to pay these medical bills. Yeah, I know. Ironically, got into cage fighting, got into kickboxing, because I needed to pay medical bills. And you might be thinking, well, wouldn't that incur medical bills? Well, yeah. It was a messed up situation. I know. I know. So I couldn't afford to go to a gym. Didn't even have transportation to get to the closest gym to where I lived. And I certainly couldn't afford the gym fees. So what did I do? I found some like-minded people. I went on Craigslist. I found a guy who was selling an old wrestling mat for $50. I scrimped and I saved and I bought it. And I dragged it back home.
Hope you watched it.
Put it down on the floor.
Hope you watched that thing.
Invited some people over.
Hope you watched it.
Trained on that wrestling mat.
Hope you watched that wrestling mat first, bro.
And on that wrestling
mat, had that good staff on there.
Training a number of professional fighters who went out there and they won their first professional fights. That was my first experience coaching mixed martial artists. At this makeshift gym that I made myself with a wrestling mat I bought on Craigslist for $50.
No, God, tell him where that wrestling mat came from.
With materials that I bought from, man, where did I get the leather to make those bags from?
Yeah, where did he get that leather?
Craigslist too, I think it was. Some dude was.
What kind of leather? What was the source of that leather, man?
Storage unit that he bought. Craigslist was really helpful back in the day. You know, I don't know if it still is. I haven't used it in a very long time.
Dangerous too.
But the internet is a very valuable resource to guide you to very inexpensive solutions to some of life's seemingly great problems. I had a friend who helped me build a rack for this heavy bag out of some scrap steel that he had lying around. And man, that was an interesting project. One thing I learned about that is, it's not so much about what you have, it's very much about who you know and what kind of person you are. Charisma goes a very long way, my friends. A very long way. if you want to succeed in this world, it's not about having the right letters in front of or behind your name like PhD, doctor, etc. It's about the person that people see when they see you. And whether or not they want to have anything to do with you.
Okay.
Man, I just rewatched Dances with Wolves. Saw that with my wife. Neither of us had seen it since we were kids. You know that old Kevin Costner movie where his character begins to live among the Sioux people out on the Great Plains. And as was their custom,
or was it like New York,
they give
Canada?
people new names when they earn them. Children in that culture and many Native American cultures would start out with a simple childlike name, and then when they got older and did something to earn a name, they were given a more respectable name. And that might seem like a strange foreign concept to many of us, but in the modern world, we kind of do the same thing. We start out with our given name that our parents give us when we're born, where nobody knows who we are because we're just a baby. And then we go out there and we try to earn a new name, a new title, a doctor, a captain, a sergeant, a mister,
Professor.
a
professor.
sensei, a master, a whatever
Sensei.
it is.
Dai Sensei.
Some sort of honorific title
Shidoshi.
to make us sound more important than we really are. But the reality is, who you are speaks so loudly, they can't hear a word that you say, let alone that name that you thought you earned.
Okay.
It does not take a great deal of money to train. Combat sports are poor man's sports. They always have been.
Not anymore. You need money.
Boxing gyms, for
You
example,
need money.
perfect illustration of this point. They're not glamorous places. They're not. I mean, I love boxing gyms. I love them probably more than any other type of combat sports gyms because they're so real. They tend to be. Because they are gritty, they are bare bones, they are perfect examples.
That don't work for jiu-jitsu. You
how
gotta clean. You need a clean environment.
A lot of stuff done.
And smell good too.
Now there are some beautiful boxing gyms out there with the best of the best equipment, but man, where do the real fighters train? More often than not, these hole-in-the-wall type of places. When I moved to China, I sold all my things, sold that wrestling mat, sold my heavy bag rack.
No, he sold
and
everything.
my friend and I had welded together and bolted together.
It needed to go.
And that heavy bag rack, I remember, I sold that to these dudes from Mexico, and they were boxers. And they were so happy to find this equipment that was cheap enough for them to afford, that they could mount in their very makeshift gym that they were setting up in a garage, so they could train people in the art of boxing. They were so thrilled about that. Man, I remember the looks on their faces when they bought my old heavy bags and my heavy bag rack, and they were like, man, this is such an upgrade. This is such a blessing. And man, I saw that look, that beautiful look of, we are going to get out there and train. And they got after it. And that made me so happy that these items that I had worked so hard to produce, even though they didn't cost a lot of money, they cost me effort, they cost me work, they cost me mental capital, if you will, emotional capital. I was so happy to see that went on to help other people get out there and train.
That's good, man. Give back. Well, he sold it,
and
but
that
give back a little
they
bit.
were not limited by finances, like so many people think they are. Who you know and where you look is much, much more important than what you have. And even more than that, how persistent you are at looking for what you want. And how persistent you are at working for what you need. Thanks for watching.
Awesome.
Now
Yeah,
get out there and train.
Yeah, you don't need much to get started, guys. Look at this. Wee! Yo, I'm big. You don't need much to get started training. Just some mats in the area. Heck, some places they be training outside. In LA, where the weather is good, they can train outside. But you don't need much. Obviously, the better stuff you have, the better it's gonna do. Easier it's gonna be to sign people up. But at the end of the day, it's got to be crazy people that want to train and train together. All right, guys, that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Shout out to Jer and Carol, who probably watching this video at home. If you guys had any suggestions, you can always link in the comments the videos that you want me to react to. Hopefully I can set up something. I don't know if how I'll do it, but maybe have some way where people can donate a little bit and I'll go over the video, or something like that. I don't know. I'm experimenting. I don't know if you've seen some of the different things I had on here. Got little stuff up here. So it's pretty cool to see that. That's basically it. I'll see you guys in training. Or if I don't see you guys, good luck. Keep training. And peace. Peace, peace, peace. And I'm